to the RC Aerobatics Podcast. I'm your host, Rich Whitlow. This episode, we get to speak with Mike McConville. Mike is a longtime F3A Pattern, IMAC, and now F3S Jets Aerobatics pilot who lives in Fredericksburg, Virginia. Mike has competed in many high-level events, including the TOC and the Don Lowe Masters. Mike has worked in the RC industry in product development and aircraft design. He now currently works in the drone industry. We talk about his history, how he got into RC, and his journey in the different disciplines of competition. Thanks for listening to the show. Please like and subscribe. We have with us today Mike McConville. Mike is a pilot, an aerobatics competitor, a plane designer, a plane builder, and he's worked in the industry. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you. There's some people who may not be too familiar with you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your childhood and how you grew up and how you got in the RC industry?
Well, my childhood. Well, that's going back. Yeah, so I'm a second generation modeler. My dad was an RCer from before I was born, so I was born into it. I always said I was born with a transmitter in my hand, which is almost true. But I started flying at a really young age. I think I first started flying when I was about 4. Probably got serious about it when I was maybe 11 or so. So I started flying all the time. And by the time I was 13, I was competing in pattern.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that got a long career of aerobatic competition. And I grew up in the Cincinnati area, so I had a lot of really good mentors in the area. Guys like Dave Brown, who was the reigning national champion and vice world champion, vice TOC champion, guys like Dave and Mark Radcliffe, Tony Furkowiak, and a lot of guys who were kind of a generation older than me who were, icons. So I had some really good examples and good mentors to learn from.
Absolutely. Well, that's awesome. And since you mentioned Cincinnati, we'll say go Bengals.
You bet.
I lived there for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I was there in the 80s, right before their last Super Bowl run.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. That was pretty cool. So you said you started flying pattern right away. Did you stay in pattern mostly, or did you delve out into other disciplines? Or
for a long time, I flew only pattern. I think it was like 78 when I first started to compete. And I was lucky enough by 81, I was the national champion in expert class. So did pretty well. But I kept competing in pattern and F3A till, trying to think, mid-90s, I think, is when I quit. Through there used to be the TOC, the Tournament of Champions, and you got into that through placing well in F3A and the nationals and the team trials. And I was lucky enough to get into that in 92 as the first one. Actually, in 84, I qualified as an alternate, and I flew warm-up flights. And then 92, I competed for the first time. And I really started to like that. So when I went into that, after I started getting into the TOC stuff, I kind of got more interested in the scale aerobatic stuff. Mm-hmm. And I was also in the industry by then. Started in the industry with Hobbico, and then I worked for Midwest Products for about 3 years. A lot of people probably don't know who they are anymore, but they're kit people that remember kits. But when I hired there, I went to 94. I think I worked there 94, 95, most of 96 as their chief designer and chief engineer. We released a lot of kits, and we kind of started doing IMAC stuff, scale aerobatic, where I kind of took the TOC ideas that we were doing at the time and scaled it down to just 80-inch, which made it giant scale legal, but a lot more big TOC planes. And I started to kind of migrate from pattern to IMAC at that point. IMAC was not very popular, but kind of got into it, pulled some more people into it, and we grew it pretty quickly, at least in the North Central District where I was living at the time. I mean, man, because that was mid-90s. By late 90s, we were flying TOC airplanes, and the little stuff wasn't really competitive, at least in unlimited anymore. But that's kind of how I migrated from pattern to scale aerobatics. I flew IMAC because I enjoyed that kind of airplane, and really focused on TOC until it ended in 2002.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess I could fly IMAC for probably another 6 years or so, and kind of quit doing that in late, probably 2009 or 10.
Okay. Well, the beginning of TOC and the way they started, that was always scale airplanes, or were there some purpose built airplanes? Or
no, in the beginning they were pattern airplanes. I think they were, because I think it started in like 73, I want to say was the first year, 73 or 74. I can't remember. It was way before my time. But I looked at it, I read about it in magazines and kind of dreamt about it.
Right.
I never thought that I'd actually get to. But they started with pattern airplanes until 78, actually, and they decided to change it to scale airplane. 78 through the end, they were always scale airplanes and you were allowed to deviate from scale some, just like IMAC. Actually, IMAC allows a lot more deviation than TOC did, but you could make them fly better. And you develop a lot of designing skills in that too. And they were always changing the rules, so they always had to be scale aerobatic planes, but they changed rules that really set the size of the airplane you would fly. So you were always building something new for it. It never became stagnant, which was great because that really created what we have today. I think if it hadn't been for the TOC and pushing for bigger airplanes and higher performance airplanes, we wouldn't have the IMAC and the 3D airplanes that we have today, because those all come directly out of all those TOC developments and the stuff that we do, particularly from, really the whole time it was scale. Yeah.
Yeah. And did TOC always have a freestyle element in it, or or was that added?
Not always, but for a long time, all the ones I flew in did. I think they brought freestyle in, I want to say, probably like 82 or 84, I think. When I was the alternate for 84, so I flew warm-up flights, and they did do a freestyle that year. It was...
Okay. Oh, very interesting. Yeah, I remember seeing... that was my senior year in high school, so I remember seeing some of the coverage in the magazine. It's always like, wow, it's like the other side of the world, Vegas having these great contests, Oh, that's unbelievable. So you talked about that being some basis of some of your design stuff. What a lot of people are familiar with your designs, especially with Horizon Hobby and such. But what kind of designs did you start off with, and how did that develop?
Well, there was a lot of designs. So I tried to add up one day all the designs I've done that are in market, and it's well over 100. Wow. I don't think I could list them all out anymore. I forgot I did that one. Yeah. It was a lot of years. So, with Midwest Products, I did kits, and I think we did about 9 kits in 3 years, which was a lot of work, but it was fun. I did 3, did aerobatic stuff, the Just Giant IMAX stuff. I did an extra 300S, a Cap 232, Super Stinker, a G202. I also did some trainers, did some sport airplanes, did one called the Starduster 40, which was kind of like a 4-star 40, I guess. Probably did a Super Steerman, did a lot in a short time. But then I left Midwest because it was like 96, and you could see the kit industry was it was sliding because the ARFs were getting better and better and better. And I actually saw Horizon had come out with an Ultra Coat covered J3 Cub. It was like an 80-inch Cub. And to me, that was kind of like a watershed moment. I could see the writing on the wall. I was like, if they can do that, they could do everything that I'm producing as kits right now. And this kit business is going to in a couple of years. And an opportunity opened at Horizon. So I went to Horizon in late 96, actually right after the TOC. And actually went in to manage the Team JR at the time. Now it's Team Horizon. But at that time, JR, they were the exclusive distributor in the U.S. for JR, so that was the big push.
Right.
And kind of in my spare time, because we were a smaller company then, so we got to wear a different hat.
Mm-hmm.
And the owner, Rick Stevens, like, yep, contribute anywhere you can. And I always had a passion for design, for product development. So I started doing some ARF stuff and just continued with what I'd been doing. I think one of the first ones I did was like 1.8, built around the Sato 180, was an Edge 540.
Oh, wow.
That actually sold really well, and I think that was the beginning, maybe, of the Horizon stuff, and then it just rolled. After a couple years of doing the team thing, I kind of moved full time into product development. Kind of took over leadership for the Hangar 9 brand. In there, we created the E-Flight brand. Electric was still, and E-Flight was very small today, but at that point in time, we were still running brush motors and nickel metal batteries. So E-Flight exploded a few years later once LiPos and brushless motors came on. Then that was another big game changer. But it was just all growth then from like 97, 98, when we started doing stuff, till the heyday in Hangar 9 was probably around 2010, 11, 12. Went from doing little stuff to big. I mean, I did the 46% Ultimate, which apparently now are like collector's items. Wish I'd kept it.
Yes, no doubt. No doubt.
I have all the CAD drawings for it. Did the last aerobatic plane, and really the first. Well, I probably did two full blown competitive aerobatic designs. The Ultimate, and then I did the 3.1 meter Sukhoi. Right at the end of when I was competing in IMAC. But I remember I got the prototype right after the Nats, and I'd kind of gotten back into IMAC a little bit. And I took it to 5 or 6 contests, and I never even lost a round with the airplane. I won every round I flew it, except the one where I had a prop explode, and so I didn't win that one. It was just such a profoundly good flying airplane. I really wish I'd had that back in the TOC days. I think I might have won one if I'd had that airplane.
Oh, no kidding! I can tell you there were more Sukhois, and I think they got more people into the 40% arena in IMAC flying, especially when I entered in the 2014, 2015 range.
Yeah,
they were all over the place.
Yeah,
I was flying electric,
mm-hmm.
and I had a midair. And a guy lent me his plane, which flabbergasted me to begin with, and it was a Sukhoi. And I said, okay, I got to look at this 40% stuff. This flies pretty good.
Yeah, that thing really worked out well. I still have the prototype. I guess I'll never part with that. Still flies good.
Oh, I don't blame you. We still got guys in the club flying them. They're still around.
Yeah.
That's a great airplane for sure.
A couple years ago, they did the senior TOC or TOC Legacy thing at Clover Creek.
Mm-hmm.
So I went down, pulled out the Sukhoi. I hadn't even flown it for about 3 years. I had to dust it off and make sure everything worked, and went out and started practicing. I hadn't flown a sequence. And I remember thinking, in the old days, I used to go out and fly, and after a couple of flights, I'm like, I'm pretty competitive. And I remember pulling the Sukhoi out and flying the first day, and calling up my buddy Mike Klein, who was one of the TOC guys that went to it. And I was like, I was wrong. You can lose it. Like, I am terrible. It's just like, I'll go out one more day and try, and then I'm just gonna withdraw. But I guess the rust does still come off. It just took a little bit longer because I got very lucky, but I guess, ended up winning the thing, and I was actually pretty surprised. I think by the end of it, like, I could still be competitive. I don't want to be, but I still could be. There, Bryant Mack's dad was encouraging me. He's like, you got to go fly in the shootout. I'm like, it's invitational. I'm not invited. And he's like, yeah, really? Yeah. Let me rephrase that. No.
No, that's right. You better.
Yeah.
Kevin may see this video. Oh my goodness. I tell you that TOC reunion thing was unbelievable. That was so much fun.
It was,
and seeing all the history there, it was really, really incredible.
It was really fun to be part of it, and I really enjoyed the whole process of kind of practicing. Probably because Mike Klein and I got back together, and we used to fly together a lot when we were young. We met our senior year of high school, I think, flying pattern contest, and all through college and after college, we got together and practiced and competed against each other, but always worked together. And it was so cool to get back together and actually practice a handful of times. But by the time it was over, like, yeah, I'm done with this. I can't be all the time, every day.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It's a lot
I can imagine.
Yeah.
No, it was good stuff, and it was great to see a lot of the guys flying who were like you, kind of in the transition of beginning of IMAC and scale competition, and I think probably the evolution of freestyle as you see it, because the freestyle, you look at the early videos of TOC. I mean, freestyle looked like an unknown IMAX sequence almost.
Oh yeah,
back then, and now it's a little more busy.
It has changed so much. Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing what they do today.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt.
Too, I think
so.
It wasn't possible. I think back, servos weren't fast enough, and we'd have enough power in the airplanes, enough horsepower, but it's really evolved, and flying skills have evolved with it.
Yeah, and I think, and it may have been builders because they were kits or whatever, but I find the older designs are significantly heavier.
Yes.
So
yeah.
So between the quality of the engines, power wise, and then the heaviness of the airframes, not quite as much. Let's say flexibility, but really, I guess power to ratio is what we're
that's
talking about. Yeah,
very, very true.
Mm-hmm. So you worked up the design, and I know you work with CARF some. Are you still designing with CARF, or?
No, I really haven't done any airplane design since I left Horizon, and I left Horizon in 2016. When I left Horizon, I went to work for a drone company called Unique. It was actually Horizon's product for a couple of years, but I wasn't really fond of living in Shanghai half my life, so ended that. I didn't enjoy that work. We're trying to develop more consumer-based fixed-wing stuff. That's why I left and went there. Thought there was an opportunity maybe to make kind of like Unique tried, and DJI is so good at making multi-rotor drones that it works so well with that. Maybe there's an opportunity to make fixed-wing or hybrid VTOL or something, but I don't think so. The market's there. Yeah. So I left there, and that was basically the end of the hobby industry for me, sort of. Then I went to work for a company I still work for. Is actually my full-time job. It's a company called Red Six Solutions. We do counter UAS work mostly for the Department of Defense and a lot of different entities within the Department of Defense. But basically, we fly against counter drone systems and test them, which is really fun because it's very, very diverse. We fly everything from DJI stuff that's basically boring to we actually use a lot of Horizon products. We use Aptera's, which ironically is one of the last products I designed before I left Horizon. We literally hundreds and hundreds of those flying against different systems. Some of them for detection, some of them to actually see if they can bring them down. We do a lot of surrogate type of stuff that represents, as far as radar cross section or whatever, of threats that you might see in the Middle East. So we use a lot of Horizon's big FX3 Cub, the 165 Cub with 170s on them, with a lot of different. I mean, they're completely repurposed and have autopilots and a lot of cool stuff in them.
Wow.
We do stuff with jets. And ironically, again, they're CARF jets that we're flying. But so it's really fun. Every job is whatever the customer wants, and some of them are fast-moving stuff, some are big, some are simple multi-rotors. So we get to do a lot of neat things and fly in a lot of really interesting places.
I bet.
But besides that, I also took on kind of a part-time job, I guess, beginning of 2020, when unfortunately, our good buddy, Andy Kane, who I'd known for years, and he was actually one of my team members when I managed Team JR way back in the day, but Andy passed away suddenly, and was one of the CARF representatives. There were two, Ray Labonte and Andy, and they needed they needed the second rep. It's too much to do with one. And Ray gave me a call and said, "Would you be interested in doing it?" But at the time, I was just kind of spooling up with this stuff with Red 6. So, yeah, I've got time to do it. It's kind of a neat way to keep my hand in the hobby industry a little bit. So I took that on. Since then, my day job has gotten a lot more busy, and it's a full-time job, but I still have time. The CARF thing is not too demanding. My day job does get in the way of going to events and representing like I'd like to. But I'm trying to work around that best I can. But it's really fun, and I really enjoy CARF, though I'm not doing any designing. I'm really just more marketing and sales, product support. Really, it's all very high end stuff, so it's kind of fun because I get the stuff I get to talk about is really neat stuff, really high end product and super high quality stuff. So that's fun, and it keeps me connected to the hobby industry a little bit, which is
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, I've seen some of the CARF. I know at the shootout, we saw one of the prototypes with the internal linkage for the ailerons and all that stuff.
Yeah,
that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Certainly interesting to see, and I'm really anxious to see that 2.6 meter they just put on Facebook, I guess.
I think that's going to be huge. Honestly, my phone exploded when that thing got announced, and I shared the videos that Andreas had put up. More market for that than I thought, and from everything I've seen and what I've heard talking to him, it flies amazing. So I guess definitely some interest in the market for a full composite, but still really lightweight, full-blown 3D airplane.
Yeah, I've been amazed at how many. Well, of course, with the pattern industry, everything's composite now.
Yeah.
So it's come a long way, but even in IMAC, you're starting to see CARF and krill and composite stuff, and I think people like the maintenance-free portion of it, not worrying about warped wings or this and having to fix this, that, and the other.
Yep. And if you want
cool.
smoke, because if you're flying freestyle and you want to run smoke, it's composite's the only way to go, because smoke fluid just takes covering off. It's a mess. With composite, it just wipes off, and you're as good as new.
Yeah, there's a reason why the big freestyle guys never fly a frame more than one season.
Yeah, they don't last.
With the CARF, I know that one of their emphasis is jets. And I know you fly some jets. When did you get into the jet world?
I got into the jet world 2012. I think I got my first jet.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I was at the Dogs event in 2000. It was actually in 2010. I remember the Dogs at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Just a big fly-in, but really good fly-in. And they had a jet gaggle, and just watched. I was like, I really want to be part of that. That just looks so cool. And so I actually went home, ordered one, my first jet. Got it like the following spring. I think that was the spring the tornado hit my house like a week after I got it. So it all went back in the box, and I didn't get to start building it until the next year. So it pushed the jets off for a year. But 2012, got it done first nice day, got out and test flew it. And I've been just pretty much hook, line, and sinker a jet guy ever since. I love jets. That one was a scale jet. It was a Hawk from Skymaster. But now being with CARF, it's a perfect fit because they make just some of the best jets around. And it was really cool that we got going a few years ago now. I think the first one in the U.S., F3S, which is really great because it merged my new passion for jets and turbines with the old itch for competitive aerobatics, which never really goes away. And it's really neat. So it's basically pattern or IMAC because it's a turnaround pattern with jets. We did the first one in Muncie at the AIM headquarters in 2018 or 19. And then after that one, I think every year except COVID year 20, we didn't do one. We've had the Nationals in Mountain City, Tennessee. One of the best flying facilities I've ever been to. I highly recommend going there and coming and checking it out. But it's a blast. It is just super fun. And we've expanded it beyond just the F3S rules. Because F3S rules are really kind of built around more, let's say this without sounding arrogant, world-class pilots, like world-class
Right.
world championship F3A pilots. It's the
Yeah.
same, where they have a qualifying pattern and a finals pattern, and the finals pattern is pretty difficult. So in the U.S., we do have that for guys that want to fly full-blown F3S. But then we also do what we call the silver class, where you just fly the preliminaries pattern, so you don't have to fly the finals pattern, so it's not as difficult.
Right.
And then we do a EDF class and a scale class, so it's something for everybody. We try to make it so if you've got a jet, there's a class that you can fly, and you can probably be competitive with almost any jet.
Right. Now I assume it's a little different than pattern with the jets, because just about all the jets have gyros, right? I mean, there's no restriction.
No restriction, yeah, there isn't. And pattern should probably learn from that and kind of get into the into
Yeah,
times, but
there's a can of worms that's fun to talk about. Huh?
But done that, yeah, there's no gyro rule in 3S.
Very good. Yeah, I know. I talked to Matt Ballas a while back, and we discussed. I have a Kike's QQ Flex Jet, and he was saying that'd be perfect. That'd be perfect. So maybe one day we'll have something down south.
EDF, right? Or is it?
That one's EDF.
Yeah, that would be perfect. Well, I won EDF last year, or maybe the last 2 years. I don't know, with the Horizon 90 millimeter Viper.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the foamy, and it's
there's tons of those around.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
yeah, it's very competitive. Yeah, I think I won the last 2 years with it. I think I did. Mm-hmm. Yeah, down there because you can fly multiple classes. I mean, I really go down to focus on F3S, but may as well fly EDF there, get more flying.
Yeah, no doubt. Though I will tell you that if I walked up to the flight line with my little QQ and then he says, okay, and flying after you is going to be Mike McConville, I might pack up and just watch.
It's all for fun.
I know. I'm just teasing. Oh, well, very good. So they started the jets. What's coming out in the future with the, I don't want to call it F3S, but with the Jet Aerobatics Competition? What all's going on in that world?
Growth, more participants, and more events. We're going to keep nationals in Mountain City, and we're going to do it again this year. I'm starting to see some guys popping up. Some guys are incorporating like IMAC contests, which I think is not a terrible idea. Kind of maybe transition guys, because I think at the root of it all, you're either interested in competitive aerobatics or not. And if you are, then I think it's just like speaking for myself, I started in pattern, migrated to IMAC, and now I do some F3S, but it's all basically the same thing. It's all the pursuit of perfection in your flying. So I think those are the right-minded people to get in competition. Or I think like going to a jet meet probably isn't so much, because those guys those are fly-ins. It's you didn't go to a giant scale fly-in to get IMAC pilots, because most of those guys are just not that kind of person.
Yeah,
so I think
I agree.
Yeah.
That's one of the bases of this podcast when I started it was, all the IMAC guys make fun of the pattern guys, and pattern guys make fun of the IMAC guys, and who knows what the indoor guys are doing, and now they
make fun of all of them. So the F3S,
yeah, no doubt. So, and I was flying IMAC and pattern and watching the jets and wishing I had an indoor facility so I could go fly an indoor. And I said, the guys are the same. They just in different groups,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, terrific. Yeah. Well, hopefully, I've been wanting to go to Tennessee. I know, the Turners are up there, and they keep saying, I got to fly in Tennessee, and I'd love to see the nationals, and that'd be fun. So maybe one day we'll get up there.
Yeah,
that'd be pretty cool.
I highly recommend it. It is the most beautiful flying site you'll ever see in your life. Yeah, it's just a full size airport, just in the hills of Tennessee, eastern Tennessee. It's just beautiful.
Yeah. Well, I like it, Eastern Tennessee. I spent a lot of time in Knoxville, and specifically Oak Ridge in the
Mhm.
nuclear industry.
Mhm.
So it's a pretty area for sure.
Yeah, it is.
Let me ask you this: practicality wise, as electrics have becoming more and more prevalent, we've seen some 100cc airplanes successfully go electric
Mhm.
and compete. What size jets right now is it uh, competitive or practical to do EDF?
Oh gosh, definitely bigger than the 90 millimeter. I mean, the 120 millimeter stuff is working really, really well. Um, Things like trying to think, probably like BV. I mean, BVM makes some high end electric stuff. Um,
Mm-hmm.
uh, the Electra, which is a bigger jet, bigger or small for turbine, but bigger.
Right,
I
right,
think
right.
that's a
Well, I mean, we see all these huge ones that are. What's the name of that real popular one in the freestyle? It's the one that I think Wayne Matthews flies, and what is ah, I can't think of the name of it, but it seems like there's a bunch of them, but they're so big. I don't know what size turbines they have in them, but they got to be
yeah,
has a significant
like the
thrust,
one
huh?
I fly. In F3, and I do the full blown F3S. But last couple of years, it's been
Mm-hmm.
myself and Archie Stafford flying the F3S. We're flying
Oh,
sequences on that. We both fly the CARF Models, which is
okay.
a good
Mm-hmm.
size airplane. It's vectored thrust, um, which helps in the F sequence a little. I don't use much; just use a little tiny bit to get a little more rudder authority, and I could actually get the
Uh-huh.
pattern with that airplane flying without any vector thrust. But yeah, it's a big airplane. I'm running a 320. I can't
Okay. Wow.
turbine, so yeah, it goes through 7+ liters of fuel in about 8 minutes. Because it's a vector thrust jet, it's a 3D jet too. So if you want to,
Right.
and then if I'm doing a lot of 3D stuff and bringing down hovering and whatnot, then I'm going through 7 liters of fuel in about 6 minutes.
Holy cow. Better bring a big jug.
Love them.
Oh my goodness, that's crazy. Well, good deal. Um, is there any other stuff that you're involved with? Have you ever done indoor or any other aerobatics
Not
competitions?
for a long, long time. Indoor I did was like the very beginning. Um, I don't know if you remember, they did the thing they called the ETOC at the Toledo show,
Yes.
and I flew in the
Mm-hmm.
first two. I think two. Yeah,
Uh,
and then I just stepped down. It just, I don't know, wasn't my thing. I mean, it was fun.
yeah.
It was kind of neat. And I was always fascinated by the miniaturized stuff, but yeah, just I never could find at that point in time a good place to practice. So I'd have to
Right.
fold and not really very well
Mm,
prepared because I didn't get to fly very much. Um,
yeah.
so yeah, I mean, I'm blown away with what they do now with F3P. I mean, those airplanes are, and those pilots. It's just amazing how lightly loaded they are, and crazy
I know.
speeds they fly. Um,
It's it's so slow and graceful to watch, but um, down here everything's outdoors because we're always warm.
yeah,
And I asked the guy at LSU if he let me use the indoor practice facility for the football team, and he said no. So
yeah.
there we go.
That's
Yeah, it's pretty interesting stuff for sure. Oh, very good.
LSU.
What's that? I'm
You're
sorry.
near LSU.
Yes. Matter of fact, our one of the facilities, not my primary practice facility, but one of our airfields is about a mile and a half south of Tiger
Oh,
Stadium.
okay. Well,
So we're right
Bengals
there.
fans, thank you for Joe Burrow.
No doubt, huh? Well, I can tell you what, you got a lot of Louisiana fans down here
Yeah,
since Joe Burrow went up. Well, Joe Burrow, what about Jamar
oh, and
Chase?
Jamar.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, those two were amazing.
Oh, it's some of the stuff, and they've played together for so long because it's like he knows exactly where he's going to be. He doesn't even look; he throws the ball, and there's Jamar.
I know.
It's unbelievable. They're fun to watch. I'm so happy to see Cincinnati. If I'd have remembered, from the house, I'd have brought my Houday beer can I have from the '80s.
Oh yeah, that would have been good.
Oh my goodness. So, well, good deal. Why don't you give us a rundown of your sponsors and people who you'd like to identify, and then we'll get this wrapped up.
Okay. I don't really have a lot of sponsors anymore like I used to since I'm not nearly as active. Mm-hmm. But CARF Models, definitely. First and foremost, a sponsor and a part-time employer, I guess. And great manufacturer. JR Propo and DeeForce, like JR radios and JR servos, and that stuff is fantastic. King Tech turbines, definitely the best turbines going in my opinion. I think that's about it now. I hope I'm not forgetting anybody, but
there you go.
Yeah.
And anybody else, we appreciate you for sure.
Still applying IMAC, it would be DA for sure. I mean, DA, and I should thank them, even though, I mean, I really haven't need anymore, but they were a long-time supporter, a long-time sponsor from the very beginning of DAs. In fact, I actually had DA 150 serial number 0002.
Wow.
And I flew that in the Don Lowe Masters the first year that DA 150. I don't even think they're on the market yet. I think Dave just got them out to those of us that were going to fly in the TOC. So they've been a supporter since the very beginning. So definitely, yay, and I still believe they make the best out there. Yeah, kudos to Dave.
Absolutely. Yeah, kudos to them in general, because I tell you what, they support IMAC so much.
Yes.
In at the Nationals, they're there. The shootout, they're there. At any big contest, they're there. In sometimes small contests. I mean, it's really incredible what they do. And the people who want to fly a reliable engine, they're flying the DAs for sure.
No doubt.
Though I will say, all the manufacturers have come a long way. There's a lot of good products out there, which is good.
Yep.
Good for the hobby.
Yeah.
Good for the hobbies. So if somebody wants to contact you, what's the best way? Is it Facebook? Is it email?
Either Facebook or email.
Okay.
Email.
Well, very good.
imjm@gmail.com. Facebook is under my name.
Yeah. Well, very good. Well, I sure appreciate your time. It's been such fun talking to you, and hopefully we'll run into you again, in the near future. And if you ever need anything, let us know.
Will do, and likewise.
All right, good deal. Take care.
You too.
Thanks for listening to the episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe. A very special thanks to my good friend John Gros, who wrote the song Deep in the Mud that is used as the show bumper music. Check him out on his website, www.johnpapagros.com. A link is in the show notes. See you at the next episode.